Going to do a presentation, and then his film will be shown during dinner. So while you're eating dinner, you can watch his presentation, his film. But in the meantime, this gentleman, Matt Landman, I had a chance to interview several times, and I know that the subject of chemtrails, environment, all this, there's new information that have come out about the Carnegie and Harvard attempts at geoengineering. This is some very, very, very important information that we can give you, because much of this information was pretty much sequestered during the 2030 summit, and the reason why is because if this information is known, it will most certainly thwart, if we get out and start speaking up about it, it'll thwart their intentions of making our skies white instead of blue, and it would also blow the lid off this whole CO2 scam, which is why they didn't give the geoengineers any moment in New York when the summit happened. But I'll let Matt Landman talk about that with you. He's going to be talking about the full-on chemtrail summit. They'll be here in Portland, Oregon. Some speakers will be here to talk more about this. This is a very important issue right now. I had a lot of people on Facebook actually tell me that, you know, the new information is something that they didn't know about. And I say that, you know, it's important that Ground Zero listeners in the entire world realize that we're progressing and confirming information. We're not speculating. We're getting you information as soon as we can. No more are we saying it's coming or wait until the future. It's here. And we're giving you information to tell you that it's here. I know a lot of people speculate and they pretend like there's a big cover-up and they're being harassed and all this stuff. Well, some people are, but most of us who know how to get the information and give it well. I mean, when we had Harry Sweeney up here, I mean, how amazing was that to hear his information? Give him a hand. And Alana's stuff, I mean, every time Alana speaks, I'm blown away by what she has to say, because she just digs up new information and more information. Her books are remarkable. This is the new guard. I mean, we've heard the same people every time talking about the same subjects and never giving us anything new. We're giving you new and important information that we hope that you're taking notes on it, that you'll definitely go out and experience and study for yourself. That's the important thing. Self-study, self-introspection, and doing this for you. We do the work, but we want you to also do the work to make sure that we're on our toes, because, you know, I always love it when a listener can give me information that I haven't heard about. And I never second guess my listeners, because they are amazing. Many of them do a lot of hard work too. Many of them are in the intelligence fields. They're in medical. I have a wide array of people who listen, and they're most certainly willing to constructively correct or at least inform us. And that's what we want. We want people who are going to exchange information and do it in a way that's not insulting or provoking. We're not here to best each other. We're here to learn from one another, and that's the important thing about Ground Zero University. And we're going to do more events like this. Would you like more events like this? We're going to be doing more, so be ready for that. In the meantime, let me introduce you to Matt Landman, who's going to do a presentation for you, and he'll come up now. Give him a big hand.
Thank you, Clyde. Are you mic'd? Are you mic'd? Yes. Okay, good. I should be mic'd up. Does it work? Yeah. Yeah, okay, this is great. Okay. So can we go to the first slide, please? Okay, thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Clyde, and thank you guys, thank you everyone for having me. It's so great to be in Portland. I'm getting used to being here as I've been passing out flyers and getting to know the city, because I'll be hosting the second annual Global Chemtrail Summit in Portland on May 7th. Yeah, it's loading. Okay, so I like to start these presentations off just telling people a little bit about myself, how I woke up to chemtrails. I really like to express that I'm a normal, common person, okay? The dialectic out there likes to put people in these categories because it's all about this division, and it's this duality. You're a conspiracy theorist, you're not a conspiracy theorist. You believe this side, you don't believe that side, and they want this othering so they can split everybody up, but really I'm just like everyone else. So I'm from the East Coast. I grew up in Virginia. Yeah, there it is. And I ended up, after business school, I ended up seeking more. I came to California. I wanted to get into the film industry. I worked in finance. And maybe if you just quit it and then start it over at the first slide. I started off in finance. I ended up in California, and after getting a master's in business administration from California State University, I wanted to get grounded, and I literally went out and started working on an organic farm. And out there, I witnessed weather modification. It's Northern California, it's 5 years ago, and we were witnessing the beginning of this very critical drought that we're now being relieved of all of a sudden. But the drought, I noticed, and along with my other coworkers on this farm, we were scheduled to have our annual deluge, our annual precipitation. We're in Oregon, right? Pacific Northwest. We all get this annual rain that starts in November and doesn't stop for a few months. Well, this large storm was coming. It was forecast that we were going to get a couple weeks of rain. The frogs and salamanders, these amphibious creatures, were coming out from underneath my house I hadn't seen for a year. And I really was literally realizing this ecosystem that I was living in the redwoods, that these 3,000-year-old trees and the entire ecosystem, they're used to getting this seasonal deluge, one that we hadn't had for 5 years. And out here on the farm, I'm wearing, rain boots, rain jacket, and I'm waiting for this huge storm to come. And these black clouds come rolling in off the ocean, and right in front of them are a dozen planes. And they grid the sky, and the storm didn't drop any rain. And I did not think anything of it. See, this is where the cognitive dissonance comes in that I'll talk about in this presentation. And this is where our voices are so infinitely important, because we have to plant the seeds in our friends' heads so that they can see these things and then not be blind to it, because I was blind to it. And I planted this in my memory bank. And again, I witnessed it. We were supposed to get rain maybe the next year, right? I mean, I witnessed this for a full-on year of this weather modification. Every time we were supposed to get rain, these planes would come. They would grid the sky, line, 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 haze, storm comes, no rain, okay? And come to find out, someone says to me, oh, it's just the chemtrails. And I go, what's that? What's a chemtrail? And I had no idea. And they go, don't you see it? And I go, well, yeah. And they're like, well, they're here now. They're not here on the blue days. Don't you see that? And I'm like, holy jeez. And I start looking into it, and it was just this onion that I kept peeling back layers, and then I decided I had to make a film about it, and which we're going to be screening tonight. Thank you so much for your patience. I was hopeful to screen it now, but we'll be doing that at 6 p.m. during dinner. That'll be awesome. And I get to share this presentation with you. So yeah, I learned and witnessed drought causation. Okay? And then once I researched the patents, I learned that you can seed clouds, but you can also spray aluminum as it dissipates. Okay? You can spray aluminum, make it not rain. You can spray silver iodide, make it rain. Okay? And they have these patents that go back they go back decades, dozens of years. So as you can see, this is not I'm going to go through these pictures pretty quick. We've got 100 slides, so I'm going to run through some of them pretty fast. Okay, so in this presentation, what I really want to talk about is the media, because they are controlled now, okay? And what's going on is our entire frame of reference, how we think as a society, is being engineered. We're being socially engineered to live in these dualities, where it's a yes-no framed dialectic for all of these different things. Now they're pushing solar geoengineering, which is blocking out the sun, and they're asking, should we do it yes or no? They're not talking about all these other options. Okay, they're framing these debates, black, white, male, female, pick a side. You either hate Trump or you love Trump. Which one is it? It's how the media likes to shape and divide and divide and divide and divide and conquer us. So what has happened in this media consolidation is we're down to 6 companies. All right? We had in 1983 50 companies. All right? So I see the demographic in here is somewhat a little older than me. During your childhood, you had a trusted news source. Okay, some of these stations, Fox News or whatever it was, maybe you didn't trust. But you had in your head these trusted news sources. They've all been consolidated. They've all been bought. And literally a couple families own all of them. And they dictate what these what these media outlets say. And they'll even give them the script, and it's even been shown by even Conan O'Brien that these scripts are nationwide, and they're given on the same days, and they're literally reading. I mean, even telling you that gas prices are going to go up, or telling you it's time to go get your kids a birthday present, that it's time to get your kids a birthday present is handed nationwide, and it's read by everyone to frame your spending, to frame how you think. It's quite diabolical. So the media, along with Google, along with everything that you see on the internet, there's a lot of disinformation, and everything is being framed to convince you to think one way. So you ask Google, why are there lines in the sky? It tells you what they want you to think. So in these instances, you can either take authority as the truth, or you can take truth as the authority. And the whole point of this chemtrail thing, in my eyes, is to get people to realize that they can find the truth within themselves, and they don't have to ask Google, because Google's top 4 hits are going to be disinformation. And I'll show you. Okay, so if I had a crystal ball, it would be a lot easier to see where they're going. Okay, but now in hindsight, it's a lot easier because I can see where they were going then, because it's easy to put the pieces together. So when I first started waking up to this chemtrails, I went online to googlealerts.com. Okay, this is my process, this is my story, but it's really tangible and it's really real. In Google Alerts, I said I want Google to alert me daily anytime the word chemtrails comes up on the internet, and anytime the word geoengineering comes up on the internet. So every day I'm notified of any new articles that come out. And by doing so, I was actually shown some serious manipulation and propaganda going on in our media. So this was in August. What happened was the Carnegie Institute, which is ran by David Keith, which he's one of the major solar geoengineers in this Carnegie Institute. It's the Royal Society. It's through Harvard. David Keith is a primary solar geoengineer. He's got patents, and you'll see in my movie, this is the bad guy. Everybody wants a boogeyman. Who's doing it? Who's spraying? We can at least point the finger at this guy for now. He's got the patents for the carbon capturing. He's got the patents for the solar geoengineering, for the spraying. And he came out in conjunction with this guy, Mick West, who I'll talk about, who's a disinformation artist. They came out with a paper through University of California, Irvine, in August. Okay, so here's the crystal ball. They just announced that they're going to spray aerosols via planes to block out the sun to save us from global warming. They just announced this a couple weeks ago. Well, when they're sitting around having their meeting, they say, well, how are we going to introduce the public to this idea? Well, first we need to come out with our disinformation manipulation tactics and get everybody divided and make sure that any activist movement, right, can't gain any traction, because everybody will be fighting amongst themselves. Divide, 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 divide. So this article, it surveyed 350 scientists. 77 out of the 350 responded, and 76 out of 77 scientists said yes, or said no, there is no SLAP, SLAP, okay, which is a secret large-scale atmospheric spraying program. Okay, it's a made-up acronym that was to further confuse. Okay, so what they do is they split, divide, and confuse. Split, divide, confuse. And so what happened here is these scientists came out and said that there's no chemtrails. Okay? At least not by their definition of chemtrails, which was by Mick West. Mick West I'll talk about in just a minute, but he was the one running this study. He is no scientist. He just has a website that Google will bring you to anytime you ask it anything controversial about vaccines, about 9/11, about anything. And this is their SLAP. And they ask these scientists all these complicated questions, showing them photos of obvious chemtrails. This is complete disinformation. And so anybody who's new to this can look it up and feel good about themselves and think that nothing's really going on. So then the media runs with it. And I'm getting updated. Just like when it happened, it was out of control, because I was getting a dozen articles updated in my email, so it tells me chemtrails was talked about in this article, chemtrails was talked about in this article. I was getting a dozen a day for 2 weeks, okay, which was rare. And all of them by the major media outlets, the once trusted news sources. And all of them had one thing to say. Listen up, everybody, chemtrails are not real. Now, fast forward to today, they're telling us that they have a cure for global warming, and it's chemtrails. So if you can trace the steps and see the truth for yourselves, it's a quite diabolical, manipulative scheme. So here we've got Forbes magazine, a financial publication. Chemtrails aren't real. Washington Post, chemtrails are not real. USA Today, chemtrails not real. Okay, so everybody's reading this. My grandmother's reading this. Your grandmother, if she's alive. God bless her. Okay? New York Times. And the New York Times are the ones, they're the disinformation artists. They're the ones telling us that they have a fix. They're the ones that they come out with it first, and everybody, it's been a shame. They're treasonous. It's really sad. So they show us a photo of chemtrails, and they say, guess what, chemtrails not real. So people are getting this in their news feed, New York Times, picture of chemtrails, chemtrails not real. So then eventually when someone comes to them and says, hey, look, you know they're modifying the weather, you know, and they go, no, I know about this. I've read about this already. Okay? August 14th, August 14th, August 15th, August 16th. Chemtrails, not real, chemtrails not real, chemtrails not real. A lot of these publications are just websites that are totally fabricated, brand new, and they are the ones that I've noticed that are constantly pushing these different disinformation pieces basically once a month. One of the examples is, let's get a good one, Nerdist, Nerdist.com. All right, 98% of surveyed scientists say chemtrails aren't real. Well, what's with the other 2%? What are they saying, that we're getting sprayed? You know, who is that last person? It's kind of like they have to have this. They have to give us a little sliver of the truth, just so they can claim that they did the right thing. You know, why are they telling us that one scientist out of them says that chemtrails are real, according to their whole schematic? It's an interesting thing to watch. Okay, here's another article, August 24th. This is the bad guy, David Keith. Okay, we're going to see him in the film. I don't know, I'm kind of sick of him by now, but because I'm putting this film together, and I told my editor last night, we're going through it last night, and I said, I don't want to watch the clips with David Keith anymore. And she says, I've spent hours on this, you're going to watch it too. So, and he makes me sick. So this guy, his plan, he's the patent holder, and his plan is to block out the sun. And here he is. He's got the technology, he's got the ability, he's got the patents. He says, oh, we're not doing it yet, but this is what it would be like. And it was literally, what was this? This was, sorry to be slow, but I want to get this across. This is August 24th, okay? And then this was August 14th, 15th, 16th. So they waited 10 days. They came out with all this disinformation. Everybody's feeling good about chemtrails are not real. And then this guy is offering us chemtrails to save us. But people don't see through the muck, you know? They don't see the truth through they don't see the forest through the trees. And that's what the chemtrails is all about, is to really be able to see the truth for yourself. That's really what I think the chemtrails is about. Because if you can wake up to this, you can wake up to a lot of stuff. Here's this publication. Quantifying experts' consensus against the existence of a secret, large-scale atmospheric spraying program. 17% of the people surveyed, okay? So they surveyed 350 people. A certain amount of people responded. 17% of them responded and said, no, there's no secret large-scale atmospheric program. The SLAP is literally a slap in the face of the activists who are trying so hard to get the word out there, okay? And this paper, if you see the name Mick West right there, I'm going to talk about this Mick West character because he has no right to be on any sort of publication, especially one like this. And it makes you think, if they're coming out now to say solar geoengineering needs to happen, that they need to spray us to save us from global warming, then why were they coming out just a few months ago doing this? You know, it seems like a really planned out agenda. This guy, Mick West, will debunk anything. This is his job. He's a computer programmer. He will debunk bicycles that make electricity. He will debunk 9/11, and his website is metabunk.com. How is he in charge of a scientific publication debunking chemtrails? I mean, through the University of California, Irvine. Why is his name even on it? Okay? This guy gets paid to make memes making fun of chemtrail people. This is, again, him making fun of chemtrail believers. Any conspiracy theory, he'll troll you until you start rethinking yourself, really, you know? He's got a team of trolls that will make you second-guess yourself. So, more about David Keith, okay? This guy is going up, and this is in 2012. They had a plan to go up in New Mexico and spray aerosols out of the balloons. They say this is what it would look like. Okay, this is a rare sundog. Patrick Roddy, he spoke at the EPA hearing 2 summers ago. He told the EPA about these rare sundogs. The refractory index of water does not create these rare sundogs. We did not see these 20 years ago. The chemical element that is patented to modify climate and to modify clouds, barium, which is very highly toxic, which is released from patented barium release rockets. I've seen them over Portland. Okay, it's one of the mixes in the chemical concoctions that they use. Barium has a refractory index that creates these halos. This is barium, not water. Some preemptive programming, 2015. If all else fails, The Economist. I trusted The Economist, okay? And then they show this photo of satellite imagery, chemtrails, over the ocean, as a hypothetical, if all else fails. Man-made global cooling is scary. Okay? They're framing our debate here. Well, we need to talk about it. Let's first talk about it as a bad thing, and then we'll push it in as a good thing to save us. New York Times, can humans go from unintended global warming to climate by design? Again, they're just pushing the envelope, pushing the conversation, trying to get the conversation going so that we think that this is, well, a good thing, a bad thing? Well, we'll pick a side. You want it or you don't want it, you know? But there's no talk of any other solutions. And there's no talk of the fact that global warming is a total sham, which I'll talk about in the film as well. So, this is a long presentation. I'm just going to run through this. Okay? Chemtrails, we know what they are. The term chemtrails is from the U.S. government. It means chemical trail. Okay? And then the CIA turned it and did a very good job at making people think that it was a dirty word. So if you go up to people and say, hey, you know about chemtrails, they've already planted, okay, they hired civil society actors to come to your city, Portland, and to act all crazy talking about chemtrails, to frame that conversation. So the framed chemtrail conversation is, one end of the spectrum is a crazy man on the street saying you're getting poisoned from above, don't you see the planes? And the whole other side of the spectrum is, we're going to save you with solar geoengineering. Okay? So which side of the conversation you want to be on? The crazy person on the street or saving the planet? Because you should feel guilty about all those polar bears that you're killing with your car. Okay, contrails, when they're not putting this stuff in the fuel that Ilana Freeland talks about, thank you, Ilana, it's just a hydrocarbon. All right? There's not much that should be coming out of these engines, and it should not last for more than a few seconds. Okay? They're colorless. It's hot air. Okay? There's no reason we should see water vapor from space. Right here in the top left, we see the HAARP frequency ripples going through the aerosols, creating this ripple effect. Okay? And here we talk about the cognitive dissonance. Now, it's all about how you approach people, I've learned. Okay? I like going up to different people and saying different things. If I can look in your eyes and I can think that you know the truth, I say, hand them a flyer and I say, you know about chemtrails, right? I'll see you at the Global Chemtrail Summit May 7th in Portland. Thank you. Some people I have to, you know, massage the topic. Have you ever heard of solar geoengineering? Well, Harvard scientists are coming out and say that they need to spray the skies with a chemical concoction to save us from global warming. You know, you got to say the right things to different people. People have mental blocks, and this is a real thing, okay? They don't want to think that they're wrong, okay? Talk to a parent who vaccinated their children and they had an adverse reaction, okay? Nobody wants to think that they were tricked that they were misled by their government, by their doctor, and that they made the wrong decision, and they can create mental blocks. Some people, yes, they'll wake up to it and realize that, you know, you can either avoid vaccines or there's different things you can do to help with the vaccine adverse reactions, but, you know, it's just an example. The cognitive dissonance is real, and we all suffer from it, mind you, all of us, including myself. Different topics, but we all do. Okay, 5 reasons chemtrails are not contrails. The persistence, this is the most important thing, okay? When it billows out and it's up there for an hour and it completely blocks out the sun, this is not water vapor. Also, the irregular pattern of appearance. Anybody who's first waking up to it, I say, okay, fair enough. You know, I know this is new to you, but I want you to mentally take note of when there's no air traffic in the sky, when there's a blue sky and you don't see anything going on. And then when you see a grid pattern and you see all these planes at work, how come some days there's literally not much going on in the sky and there's normal clouds, blue, you see some planes with nothing coming out, maybe, you know, here and there. Because what I witnessed at the farm that I worked on was sparse air traffic, 3 planes a day kind of thing. Like literally, I'm up there all day and I'm looking up because I'm curious now. And then some days we got 20 planes gridding the sky. You know, there's irregular pattern of appearance, for me, is number 1. Because it's obvious, you know, and you don't even have to be a scientist to look up and say, what are all these planes doing here today? You know? You see breaks in the trails, you know, they're not turning their engines on and off. They're running out of their spray, or they're told not to spray there because a different chemical concoction is there. You know, they're mixing things up there. They're using the the atmosphere as a laboratory, according to a NASA presentation that the solar geoengineers gave. Okay, you even have aerosols coming out where there's no engines. Where there's no engines. This is an aha moment for some people. I've got friends from high school who have known me and heard me talk about this for years, and they saw the presentation, and this one slide, they were like, whoa, they're not coming out of the engines. You know, everybody has their moment. All right? Research from rainwater analysis, corroborating that with patents. And there's even weather modification companies. You can make it rain and make it not rain, make it a clear day. If you got enough money, you can control everything. You know, if you've got a wedding day and you want to drop 50 grand, you can make it not rain. Well, if you've got enough money, you can drop 50 grand every single day and make the weather you want wherever you're at. And if you're in Portland, you want to do some research, you all got sprayed with lithium and NASA admitted to it. So that's not necessarily weather modification, so then you can realize that it's a multifaceted program. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's not just control the weather. All right, so the U.S. Air Force came out with the paper Owning the Weather by 2025. This was in 1995. What people witnessed was a significant uptick in these trails, and people's memories served them. They say, I didn't start noticing these trails till 95. Well, in 99, a new word came out, aerotoxic syndrome. People started suffering from aerotoxic syndrome, from being flight attendants, from being in the air, from flying. They don't know where it's coming from or what's happening, but people that are up there are getting sick. A lot of people are getting heavy metal poisoning, too. Ted Gunderson, this man was FBI chief for LA. He was very, very outspoken. He called them death dumps. He had a website. He was very, very vocal. He died mysteriously. Look him up. He's in the film, too. He's amazing. Kylie Jenner is a celebrity, okay? She has more followers on Instagram than anyone on the planet Earth. She's a Kardashian. I didn't really know her until I saw this, but she does make a very, very relevant point. She tweeted this May 25th, 2015. She tweeted this. Okay? It reached a lot of people, and it's really encouraging to see celebrities speak up. But what she does say, she's got a couple typos in here, but what she does say is, why are some days normal with no plain spraying and other days look like this? Okay, the irregular pattern of appearance. Okay, she sees it, everybody sees it. You know, and also a lot of people have it in their memory banks, but they just don't acknowledge it until it's brought to their attention, maybe by a peer that they trust. Wink, wink. Prince, he talked about it. He was inspired by an activist, Dick Gregory, and he even wrote a song about chemtrails. Rest in peace, Prince. People say he died mysteriously as well.
So did Greg.
And Greg. So what are they for? Well, we know that there's the geoengineering because they came out that recently. They say they need to block out the sun. And here's a perfect example of what it looks like. We've all seen it. So in the film, we're going to talk about the timeline. I'm really happy to have this. It's the best chemtrail film I've ever seen. It outlines the, of course it is, right? It outlines the history of it all. There's so much military background. The military-industrial complex has been at it for decades. And they've been experimenting on us, unfortunately. So in 1915, San Diego was in a drought. They hired Hatfield. He went up on a tower. He had a hypothesis. If I use the silver chemical concoction, I think I can make it rain. He flooded and busted dams, and they took him to court for it. Okay, so he made it flood in 1915. So anytime we're in a drought, don't tell me there's a drought. You can just shoot silver off of a tower. This guy did it. And it goes on. It goes on and on. They seeded the monsoon season in Vietnam. They made it flood the Ho Chi Minh Trail. This is when they really got the experimentation going with the military-industrial complex. They did it in Vietnam, and they do it to us. There's a lot of different operations, a lot of that are very new to me. This is one experiment simulating a biological attack in San Francisco. They're spraying large plumes of aerosols, letting them drift in from the ocean. And what they do is they spray these cities in the United States and they see how many people end up in the hospital. It's like a percentage game for them because they want to test their weapons. Project Storm Fury, global sunscreen, global dimming. Okay? If you're interested, you can look up the pan evaporation test. Water is now evaporating slower than ever before because there's so many aerosols in our atmosphere. And you've got all these news articles from before when the news wasn't completely consolidated and controlled. And there was even articles saying that we were going to be able to vote for what kind of weather that we were going to have because obviously everything was going to be controlled. After the world saw what we could do in Vietnam, they wanted a ban on all weather weaponry. And they did. They signed a treaty. But you know what the treaty said? You can only do it on your own people. And they do. (2001). Okay, now we're getting closer to the present. This Dennis Kucinich, they put together in the House of Representatives a law. They wanted to ban some of this space weapon technology that Ilana, I highly recommend all of Ilana's books, her upcoming book, her present book. They wanted to ban these high-tech weather weapons, these electromagnetic frequency weapons, HAARP technology, in the bill. He used the word chemtrails. They focused on that. They said, please remove that from the terminology. But it was in there. Chemtrails, okay? And then all these other psychotronic weaponry and all this stuff. But they wanted to make sure that people were only doing it. I mean, think about all those borders that could be crossed if everybody was experimenting on each other. You know, you got to keep it country to country. Because then the data would be skewed if Russia was experimenting on us while we experimented on us. You know what I mean? Wouldn't be very scientific. Here's where it gets scary. And if you've dug enough and gotten into these layers of the onion, you start to learn about Operation Paperclip, and you start to learn that NASA is not to be trusted. Okay? NASA has a budget of $50+ million. It's $54 million now a day. NASA has a budget of $54 million per day, and they're liars. Okay? With $54 million a day, you could fake a lot of stuff, and they lie. And in some of these leaked documents from NASA, and NASA's all teamed up with David Keith and Harvard in the solar geoengineering program as well. And they have this paper, 2025, the future is now. The future is now. Well, if the future is now, then what are we dealing with now? Well, one thing that we're dealing with now is micron-size mechanized dust, which is distributed as an aerosol, inhaled into your lungs, and it's on a pathological mission. A new class of weaponry, which is legal. It's legal because they make the laws, okay? And the laws say that they can research on us. Owning the weather by 2025. The U.S. Air Force came out in '96. They developed a plan, and I think they're ahead of schedule. President of Iran, Ahmadinejad, he speaks out very adamantly. He says that, first off, the drought in Iran is caused by the engineering of the weather, that all the clouds, when they come to his country, that they're emptied first. Also, Iran has had global record heat waves every summer. Last summer, they were at like 170 degrees Fahrenheit. And he's demonized because he's awake. And mind you, he's one of the last countries left with a central bank, without a central bank, pardon me. North Korea, Syria, Iran, no central bank. Okay, so this was summer 2015, Hurricane Joaquin, okay? There's a lot of different hurricane research experiments. I'm going to show that in the film. The film is all-encompassing. I can't wait to screen it at 6 o'clock during dinner. Yay. Lots of research programs. There's the HAMP, Hurricane Atmospheric Modification Program, okay, where they test it with hurricanes and see if they're going to make them bigger or smaller. Katrina was part of that. This is Hurricane Joaquin, okay? Hurricane Joaquin was paused off the coast. It was directionalized and turned into a weather weapon, okay? They diverted the energy of this storm from the eye to a directional arm. The arm flooded South Carolina in a first ever, coined by the media, atmospheric river fire hose. Lots of new words have been coming out recently. This was an atmospheric river fire hose, first of its kind. 1,000-year floods in South Carolina, okay? This is a war weapon tested on us, okay? This is not normal. How is the power being diverted to this arm, and while the hurricane spins, the arm stays in one place? Hurricane Joaquin. HAARP, Ilana did a great job, but you've seen it yourself. They spray, the metallic aerosols dissipate, and they zap it. It's to steer ionospheric currents, mind control, whatever they're working with. They're experimenting, and they're using us and the planet as their laboratory. This is an example of HAARP. I'll just run through this because Ilana's the expert. Please get her book. HAARP is not a theory. It's a real thing. This is a clip from the History Channel. The film digs into this History Channel expose. And the way that HAARP is lined up on energy ley lines, and then Ilana said that the different ionospheric heaters have to be in a row and actually have intersecting points. Very interesting stuff. Okay? And it's out in the open, hidden in clear sight. Okay? but people can shelve it as a science fiction film, even when it's a documentary. Okay? In their brains, at least, they shelve it. Okay? And when they're controlling the frequency and they're not telling us about it, it's a time in the world where we have to demand scrutiny, transparency. Otherwise, we're going to end up with this, where Nikola Tesla predicted it long ago, and this is Tesla technology, okay? And what he said is if you can control the resonant system of the planet electronically, which is their goal, then you can directly control the entire mental system of mankind, okay? We all work on frequencies. If you ever worked with binaural beats, our brains are really subject to frequency. You can put one frequency in one headphone and one in another, and your brain will shift to the differential of that frequencies. You got 12 here and 6 here, and the differential 6, your brain will resonate with that. Your brain is very susceptible to electromagnetic frequency manipulation. And the patents tell the story. Okay, when you're first waking up people to this, they've got the patents. They have a 1974 rocket that releases barium into the atmosphere to modify and create clouds in the upper atmosphere. Barium's highly toxic. It's coming down in the rainwater. Okay? These rockets, they have a different... When you see them, it's your cognitive thinking makes you think, oh, no, that's just a plane, you know? But if you really look at it, some of these trajectories actually look like rockets. And what they do is they put one substance out there, then they put another one, and they zap it and create plasma, you know? They don't have the ability to mix it all up there quite yet with their machines, so they spray barium, they come along, they spray aluminum, they come along, they spray strontium, then they zap it. Or whatever they're doing, you know? Maybe they let that plasma form in front of the sun and then let it dissolve, and then they zap it, you know? But start looking up and start looking at the differences in the different trajectories of the chemtrail planes, because some of them are actually barium release rockets. We've also got 1975 powder contrail generation. Light scattering pigment powder particles. Okay, they've been working at this for a while. Creation of artificial ionization clouds above the Earth, 1991. Now, mind you, when they come out with a patent, it's because they've already created the technology, okay? They don't come out with patents and then work on the technology. They've already figured it out. So these aren't conspiracies or hypotheses or theories. These are tangible things that they want to prevent their competitors from copying because they already had come out with the knowledge and put it to use. Stratospheric cloud seeding for reduction of global warming. Literally says that, 1991. And then along comes Monsanto. Well, they're in the know. They know that our entire biosphere is being drastically altered by aluminum aerosol contaminants. So they go ahead and make seeds that are aluminum resistant because they know that ultimately only their seeds will survive in the world we're about to live in. And we know Monsanto's evil. I don't need to, that's a whole other presentation, right? Enhanced aerial delivery systems, 2010. Okay? And the patents just keep coming and coming and coming. Okay? And recently, in Chicago, through the university system, they have come out with a whole new patent law because they claim, quote, exclusive rights to saving the planet through geoengineering. That's the title of the paper. Exclusive rights to saving the planet. Okay, we're talking about a handful of scientists. And they also claim that they no longer need to put things through the patent process because the technology is, A, too advanced for the patent people, and B, we can't wait anymore because we have to push this through directly to implementation so that we can save the planet. And here is the chart up to 2013 that they provided of all of the patents that are being pushed through in geoengineering. If you look at the difference between just 2009 and 2013, geoengineering has become a very profitable and very escalated economy in and of itself. And the people pushing it are the patent holders, included but not limited to Bill Gates. Okay, Bill Gates is behind a lot of this. Again, consolidated media. We don't have anybody speaking the truth out there. That's why it's important for us to get the word out there. Okay, and then this is just David Keith. He says that it's cheaper to spray aerosols in the atmosphere than to do anything about our reduction in carbon emissions. Therefore, it's basically our only option. But he's teamed up. It's Al Gore. It's David Keith. It's the Harvard Institute. It's NASA. It's only a handful of people, you know. A lot of people, when they get going on the chemtrail thing, they want to know the who, what, why, where, and when, and they cannot form an opinion until they've done so. So the who is really easy. It's a handful of people. You know, the why, it's multifaceted. The where, just look up. You know. So his plan, and this is just common knowledge now, with the media running with it full steam over the past couple weeks. So his plan, when I made this presentation, this plan was new news. This was something that nobody had even heard of. Now they're pushing it to the mainstream as as our only option. Okay? We're not underwater. We don't need to block out the sun. Okay? And meanwhile, global warming caused by CO2 is still just a theory. And there's a lot of people saying that it's not really what it seems to be. If you recall, we were supposed to be under a mile of ice. If you remember back in the 80s, they said, there's an ice age coming. We're all going to be under a mile of ice. And now they're coming out with new cloud names. They just came out with a dozen new cloud names on the exact same day that they said that they're going to launch solar geoengineering to save us. And it's in the cartoons, and it's in the advertisements. Okay, so everywhere you look, you're going to be ingrained with this sky that is becoming normalized. Okay, this isn't normal, but our kids are going to think it is. And what they're normalizing is faking a volcano to save us. The bad idea, right? They framed it first. They first came out telling everybody it was a bad idea. But they got the conversation going that way. Now it's our only option. It's complicated. There's unforeseen consequences. You know, they shroud it in verbiage and terminology saying that it's a bad thing. But then they come out and say that it's affordable and feasible and something that we need. Cheap but dangerous solution. This is from 2015, PBS. This entire article is by David Keith. I get to use my little pointer. By David Keith. A cheap but dangerous solution. The central idea is to make the planet a little bit more reflective. Controversial but cheap solution. Okay? And they've been focusing on it. It's going to be cheap. Don't worry. It's going to be cheap. Don't worry. And that's part of the brainwashing. It doesn't matter how expensive it is. You're blocking out our sun. And the disinformation continues. And the thing about disinformation, especially in this technology world that we live in, is people scrolling through their iPhones, they see these headlines and they think that they've been educated and they don't dig enough to realize that this publication is, well, it's owned by the same families that are trying to warp your opinion, but really, they are not just framing the way you think, but they're convincing you without you even knowing it to be on one side of the argument that you shouldn't be on. And this side of the argument says that thankfully sulfate aerosols emissions coming out of airplanes have offset global warming by 1/3. And we should be pumping aerosols into the air to shield our planet. And our planet desperately needs a little sunscreen. They say that if planes had not been releasing these vapor trails, okay, and blocking out the sun for the past decade, that we'd be 1/3 hotter. Gizmodo, right? It's a nobody publication. I could buy this website. Gizmodo.com. Gizmodo. Sorry, folks, chemtrail conspiracies are BS. Okay? framing the way you think. Okay, so here they tell us we need chemtrails, and here they tell us, but they're not real, don't worry. There's more polar bears today than ever before. The polar bears are fine, okay, but we're being guilt-tripped, and we're being sold these skinny, dying bears. And so every time we fill up our tank, we've got this little heartstring, this little seed in our head, this little heart broke for these bears. The bears are fine, and Al Gore's a con man. Polar bear's thriving. Okay? This skinny polar bear, with the help of the bot media, saw 1 billion people. 1 billion people saw this skinny bear. Be very worried. Okay? Time Magazine, another bot publication. Everybody's bot right now. Okay? So the truth is in you and your peers. Again, you can take authority as the truth or truth as the authority. It's your choice. And how they frame the debate. Okay? Problem, reaction, solution. They do it with everything. They did it with 9/11. They created the problem to create fear, to give you the solution. They have the solution already ready for you. It's just walking you down the aisle. The solution to 9/11? Constant war. The solution to chemtrails? The solution to global warming? Chemtrails. And they want to tax our carbon. So they're going to create carbon capture technology. Again, David Keith's technology. They're going to charge us for it. They're going to block the sun, charge us for it, and charge us for our carbon emissions. Okay? So we're going to be taxed for what we emit while they block out our sun and make money from it. Exclusive rights to saving the planet. I already talked about this. The patenting of geoengineering inventions. Okay, so this is critical. And sorry, this is dense information, and I'm going to get through this. How's everybody doing? Yay, we're still alive. Okay, so this is a call for papers out of Chicago. All right, Northwestern University is run by Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett is a globalist along with Bill Gates. They're all in bed together, okay? They're having the first annual roundtable on geoengineering governance. They're trying to figure out how to govern it, okay? And in the process, during their call for papers, their topics on how to govern it included what role will public perception and opinion play in a governance regime for geoengineering. So, like, have we shaped public perception and opinion to the way that we want it? What role are they going to play? When we block out the sun, will there be a reaction? Will they riot in the streets? What role will public perception and opinion play when we set up a regime to govern chemtrails? Okay? They're governing it. It's not a theory. It's not even close to a theory anymore. And they ask, should we even just ban the technology? They're not going to ban the technology. So what does this all mean? Well, full-scale dominance, full-spectrum dominance. A quote from Ilana Freeland's book. Okay, they want control over everything. And what I think they're doing is they target different regions to consolidate farms. You know, it's just it's the corporatization of everything. Every single thing is being corporatized and consolidated. The media is being consolidated. The government's being consolidated. There's no division now between corporate America and politics, right? They're inextricably linked, and everybody's bought out now. Money rules. So there's some resources you can go to. I've got a new website, actualactivistsplural.com. There's Bye Bye Blue Sky out of Toronto. Suzanne Marr, she's a great activist. She's been putting up billboards about chemtrails, trying to wake people up in Canada. Patrick Roddy, who spoke at the EPA hearing, is also in the film Frankenskies. He has a website, stopsprayingus.com. and stopsprayingus-sf.com. He's also got stopsprayingus.com now. So I'd like to steer people towards the right resources. Last year, we packed the house. Ilana spoke in Vancouver, May 7th. We had the first annual Global Chemtrails Summit. It's important to get the people together, especially to convince people and to give them the information so that they can usher that on to their friends and family and to be that beacon of truth, right? It's up to us to be the beacon of truth to spread it around. The media is not going to do it for us. Facebook's going to censor us. It's all about getting in person and doing the right thing. So we packed the house in Vancouver last year. We're going to pack the house in Portland on May 7th. We've got Clyde Lewis speaking. We have a U.S. Air Force weatherman special guest. Ilana Freeland's going to speak. Patrick Roddy spoke to the EPA here, and he's going to speak. I'm going to speak. We got a handful of speakers. It's going to be amazing. It's a free event. If you can make it, please, Portland State University, Sunday, May 7th. It's an annual thing. Next year, we'll be in a totally different place. We're not going to be in Portland again next year. And then on social media, I've got Frankenstein the movie, Actual Activists on Instagram, Actual Activists online, Matt Lambman on Facebook. Matt Lambman on Facebook has over 20,000 followers now. I'm excited about that. And just trying to get the truth out there every bit we can. Please follow me on Facebook. So, this is important, okay? We live in a completely different era than when we grew up, and our parents' generations. Our parents' generations, they could stand up for themselves, they could burn bras, they could have protests, and they thought that their actions equaled change, okay? And they had accurate news sources. There's a totally different age. And they didn't just listen to their phones. You know, think about the kids nowadays that their phone tells them what to think. All right? So, we're in a completely different era where we've got AI technology and transhumanism on the horizon. We've got complete and total control of the weather on the horizon. We've got weather warfare. We've got biological weapons being dropped on our heads. It's up to us to spread this knowledge around, okay? And it's not about going down the streets and yelling chemtrails, you know, da, 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 da. It's about saying the right thing to the right people and to getting the word out, okay? You know, this is a quote by Patrick Roddy because I've seen this in the film so many times. If you can knit for chemtrails. You know? Everybody has their ability, okay? And a Thomas Jefferson quote, if you have the ability to help someone in need, you have the responsibility. And then Martin Luther King, of course, silence is not an option. Okay? Our lives literally begin to end when we become silent about things that matter. And this is, to me, the most important thing out there. And again, if we can wake people up to this, we can wake people up to the truth. You know, truth is all on one frequency. You can't be half pregnant. You can't be half truth, right? If you know the truth about it all, you're there. You're with us. That's it. How much time do we have?
We have about 15 more minutes.
Cool. I'd like to open it. That's perfect. That's exactly what I planned. I would love to open it up to questions. I think I summed it up all right to lead into the film. Really, the goal of these presentations is to not leave you guessing. You know, I don't want people to go out there and say, oh, are chemtrails real? I don't really know. You know, I want you to be able to see through the headlines. I want you to be able to see through the stuff in your sky. And I want you on a day when the sky is checkerboarded to think to yourself, hey, Matt, can you send me some flyers? Because I want to really get involved. You know what I mean? Like, I got a stack of flyers here. Please leave with 1 or 2 or 5. But, like, literally, we're at this point, and I said this last night on the radio, I liken it to GMOs. There was a point when nobody knew GMOs existed. And you went to the grocery store, and nothing was labeled. But somebody spoke up, and that ripple effect rippled and rippled and rippled. And now I know when I go to the grocery store what I want to put in my body. But that took activists getting it to where it is, because we can't rely on our government. We can't rely on we can't rely on anybody except ourselves. Okay? So please be inspired to spread your truth. or at least learn more. And I'll have a DVD to get out there in no time. At least we can share that around. And thank you very much for having me. So questions, anybody? Please.
I drive around Portland all the time, during the day. I'm out there every day. There's chemtrails a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any insight on what's going on here locally, as far as what's up there? Where's it coming from? Any insight? Yeah.
Okay, well, they do a lot over the ocean. So Patrick Roddy, I follow on Facebook, and he offers a lot of satellite imagery, which is helpful to see a bigger perspective of it all. Where I live in British Columbia and where I did live in Northern California, it's all the Pacific Northwest. From Northern California all the way up to British Columbia, all through here, we get similar bombardment. I've spent time on a bus recently going from, I've spent a lot of time on a bus in the past few weeks, and I see that it's the same. It's the same in San Francisco that it is in Portland. They're either on or they're off. What they're spraying, it's always different. They admitted to putting lithium over Portland. I think that when they want it to rain, they're putting the rain chemicals up. When they want it to not rain, they're putting the not rain chemicals up. When they want to test a biological something or other, they do. Here's an example, okay? And it's always hard to know what slide to put in and whatnot. And every time I change the presentation, so you'll only see this presentation once, to a degree. There was an Operation Big Itch, okay? They aerosolized fleas and dropped them over cities in the United States, especially in the South. Right? They did it with mosquitoes. They did it with all these different things. They've done it with viruses. They've done it with biological agents, over our enemies, Vietnam, Agent Orange, all this stuff. But this is just one tangible example, Like, so to answer your question, they're doing whatever they want whenever they want. But one time, they did fleas. And they saw how many people went to the hospital covered in fleas. They saw how many fleas lived and how many died. And they didn't tell anybody. And they just sat back and collected the data. To us, to them, we are just a big lab. So, and then sometimes when I see them just randomly spraying, I honestly think that, like, you got a bunch of evil, I'm not trying to curse. You got a bunch of evil people sitting around a table, and they're saying, how are we going to push this agenda forward? Well, one thing that they do is they keep it constant. So people that are not in the know, they're used to it. They're used to it. You got some crazy cloud over here, and they give it a new name. Circumhorizontal arc is a new cloud name. Circumhorizontal arc, it's a chemtrail rainbow, But they give it this fancy name, circumhorizontal arc. So then when you get educated, oh, that's just a circumhorizontal arc. No big deal. So it's a new cloud word. They just came up with it. So I don't have all the answers, and I'm sorry, but when they want to push the weather systems through, they do. And I think that they've gotten to a point where they feel they can't stop. They feel that they are in charge of all of it. So literally, they're pushing it around. They're like, okay, we're going to make it rain here. We're going to make it da-da-da. And they've got some big computer involved, and they've got this whole station at the U.S. Air Force. There's a lot going on. But literally, I think that when they push a storm through, they're pushing it through. When they're making it rain, they're not. Ilana.
Can I respond?
Yeah, please. You're better.
A little bit. For the United States, continental United States, most of our weather comes from the South Pacific, where there are moisture systems. So those moisture systems are taken by the U.S. Navy, and they're built up out there for whatever kind of weather operations they have planned for continental United States. Now they herd it in a way with radio frequency and laser. They herd it toward the coastline, the west coast. And because California is being denied moisture on the whole, and that doesn't include the flood, that was just an anomaly for another experiment they were doing, I believe, for soil absorption rate. They will then bring it to the coast, shoot a laser beam from what's called Starfire laser system that are all the way up the west coast. They'll shoot a beam up in order to make what's called a waveguide. and that waveguide will open up, and now they're going to siphon that moisture straight up the coast. And as it's going up, you may see chemtrails laid for Oregon when they want to dump some there. And then the same thing in Washington State, where I am. They'll dump some there. They've dumped a heck of a lot this winter. But they're really taking it up to over Vancouver Island, where the hump of the what's the word I want?
Jet stream.
Jet stream is waiting for them. They'll put the moisture into the jet stream, and then it'll start coming south and east across the United States for tornadoes that they might want to build in Kansas. They might want to build a tornado in Texas. They'll bring droughts. They can snowstorms. I mean, you tend to think moisture and rain precipitation, but they can just as well, with high pressure and low pressure adjustments, make ice storms. They can make what's called chemically nucleated snow fall. Take it all the way to the East Coast. And then they can pump up things from the Atlantic side and bring that in, sandwich it in, and build a really big storm system there. I mean, that's where most of the weather starts out in the South Pacific, and that's why Oregon gets what it gets.
Wow, great explanation, Ilana. So for the listeners, if you didn't hear, she was talking about the atmospheric river. It's literally a river in the atmosphere, the jet stream. And what they do in Oregon, if they want, which is oftentimes they do, is they'll herd the moisture and get it up into the river, up into that atmospheric river, into the jet stream. They herd the systems up there, and then once they get it in the jet stream, it's flowing, and then they can shoot it wherever they want, more or less. Next question, please. Ma'am.
Yes, how's this affecting our drinking water?
Our drinking water. Yes. Well, it's affecting our drinking water. I would imagine that we have high levels of aluminum in our water, for sure. I think everybody should chelate and get the aluminum toxicity lower in their bodies if they can. I recommend filters. I'm really glad that Oregon is fluoride-free, mostly, more than anywhere else in the country, at least, and Portland's fluoride-free. But I definitely think that nanoparticulate metals are in the drinking water and need to be removed. Ma'am, first.
How do you do that? How do you get it out of the water?
Filtration,
Just any,
like a really high-tech filtration system.
not like a Brita.
Yeah, I mean, I think anything helps. I think a Brita with the charcoal definitely helps. Ilana, what do you think?
Well, I was thinking more, yeah, for the filtering system, but for our bodies, what it's, you know, a lot of people in Facebook are talking about. Tony, I always say his last name.
Panalleresco.
Pedascalero.
Yeah, Pedascalero, yeah.
Yeah. He has an ionized foot bath that he recommends, and I'm doing baths with a half cup barium, a half cup Epsom salt, and a half cup sea salt. And what that does, it'll bring the nano bots out. You can start out with really clean water, and then when you look after a half hour at the bath water on top, you'll see masses of small filaments. And I'm taking some of the filaments and putting them down and looking at them through a 200 power microscope. And they are the bots.
Oh, amazing. So that's good information. We'll have to write that down.
Some people are doing it 7 days in a row, half-hour bath per day, just to get them out. And if any of you have Morgellons or lesions that are with little fibers sticking out of them, those baths would be very good for you.
Thank you, Ilana. Sir?
Can you say what the ingredients were again? I'm sorry.
A half cup borax, a half cup Epsom salt, and a half cup sea salt.
Half cup borax, half cup Epsom salt, half cup
Sea salt.
sea salt for the bath to remove the
And
nanobots.
stay in only a half hour.
Half hour bath.
They'll
Beautiful.
come out.
Wow, Ilana, you're having great success with that, sir.
My question was actually about Morgellons,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wanted to know if you had any opinions on it.
Morgellons, I plan on making a full film about Morgellons. Also, I'll have a film addressing the health, how to get the stuff out of our body. I plan on making a full film about Morgellons. Morgellons, for those of you that don't know, and let me know if I run out of time, please, you guys. So Morgellons is, by the doctors claim that it's a mental condition because they're not allowed to touch it. What it is people have these fibers. Oftentimes they're luminescent, like a bright neon blue, and they have these fibers that grow out of them, and they are not, they're synthetic, and they're supposedly in the chemtrails and in the drinking water. And what it is, in my theory, is this transhumanism push. Okay, so what they want so what these guys, when they sit down, or these evil people, beings, whatever, they sit down and they say, well, here's where we want to be in 20 years. Well, in 20 years, they want us all to be infiltrated by AI nanobots. They want us all to be dialed in where we can just plug in, our heads to the car or whatever. They want us to all be robotics, okay? And it's going to start with Elon Musk telling people that if they become part robotic, that they'll be the first people to go to the Mars, because Mars is going to be this cool thing that the media is going to push. So ultimately, they're trying to push this agenda to make people into cyborgs, is what I'm seeing with this Morgellons is. So they're getting it in our systems so that eventually, when it becomes like a cool thing to do, we'll all be ready to get dialed in already, kind of thing. It's all incorporated with the new cell towers they're putting up and trying to get us all chipped. But yeah, Morgellons is a scary thing, and nobody really touches it because it's so abstract and controversial. But I plan on touching it.
The site I would recommend would be carnicominstitute.org.
carnicominstitute.org for your Morgellons information needs. Anybody else? I think we can do two more. Sir?
Have these planes been traced back to its source? I mean, are they flying back to military bases, or is it a civilian operation?
Well, the Ted Gunderson, when he's interviewed, he traced planes back to military spots. It's not just the military. I mean, you can order through dozens of companies weather on demand, and they'll come make it rain or not rain, and they're just private companies. There's also been traces back to Virgin Airlines. Virgin Airlines gave David Keith $22 million. We talked about David Keith, who he is. A lot of the commercial planes are outfitted, a lot of drones are outfitted, a lot of barium release rockets. I mean, it's basically the full spectrum. So some of the commercial jets are outfitted, a lot of military jets. I've even witnessed, some really high-tech holographic kind of technology and stuff involved. So there's some high-tech stuff going on, and yes, some of it is traced back to military, but not all of it. Ma'am?
Is there any place that they're not spraying? Is this only the United States?
It's not only the United States. I've got, on Facebook, I've got 20,000 followers, and I get messages all the time from a lot of people. I lay it on thick on Facebook, so if you don't think chemtrails are real, you're probably not following me. So I've got a lot of believers, and people are awake globally. They get it really bad in the UK. They get it really bad in Australia and New Zealand. The HAARP stations are up globally. They get it in Russia. People ask me that, and people sometimes say, oh, they don't spray in Baja, Mexico, and they don't spray in Peru. Honestly, they spray in every NATO country. I know that. And that's most of the world. And then if you're not NATO and NATO's spraying you, what are you going to do? So to answer your question, Peru maybe. Anybody else? Sir?
What are the gray or the black trails that we've been seeing recently?
Yeah, what are the gray and black trails? I think a lot of that is carbon to push their carbon BS agenda and to trap in the heat to push their global warming BS agenda. That's my opinion on the black trails.
Carbon is in the jet fuel.
And carbon is in the jet fuel, yeah. Yeah, it's carbon. There's some people say it's from coal plants. They get the coal fly ash and put it up there. Are we all done? Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Alrighty, we're going to take about a 15-minute break, and Tracy Twyman will give a presentation at 3:30. Thanks.
You're sweet.
Cannot wait to see your movie.
Thank you.
You just awakened me so many things that I'm like, holy crap.
Cool. Good. That's my goal. Yes, of course.